Hi, I'm Jami Philbrick for iamROGUE.com. I'm here on the Disney lot for the new animated film, Big Hero 6, which is based on a comic book from Marvel Comics. I had a chance to talk to the directors of the film about their work on the movie. Here's what they had to say. So I want to begin by asking you guys about the challenges of adapting the Marvel comic book into this film, when obviously two of the characters from the original team are X-Men and aren't available to Disney. So how did you sort of decide how we're going to approach this and what characters we're going to use?
Well, we generally, once we decided on Big Hero 6 as the story and the characters that we were going to take on and do here, we looked at the 2004 miniseries that was written by Chris Claremont, which actually has versions of the characters that we're doing now. It has Honey Lemon, has Fred, it has Go-Go, Wasabi, and Hero and Baymax.
Why Big Hero 6 as the first Disney animated film based on a Marvel book? Like, why was this the right one? What attracted you guys to the property?
Well, I guess, so 3.5 years ago when I talked to John about maybe doing something with a Marvel story, I did some research and I made lists of things that I thought would be really interesting and cool. And I came across Big Hero 6. I'd never read it. The title intrigued me. And that led me to research it, and I found Japanese superhero team. How cool. And then I actually read the comics, and I loved the tone of the comics, that it was very light and fun and playful, and the characters were just really appealing, and it felt like there could be a really emotional story here between this 14-year-old protagonist and a robot that becomes sort of a surrogate big brother after the character's brother dies.
And Don did a pitch actually here in this room based on what he'd found with the property. And he talked about the idea of a main character losing his older brother and being left with his older brother's creation, this robot named Baymax, who would become a surrogate older brother. And we were all captivated and blown away by the emotional potential in that story. And so I think that John was into it, all the directors were into it, and we were off to the races, and now here we are 3.5 years later.
Tell me about reimagining, redesigning the look of Baymax, because it's much different than he was in the comic book.
Very different, yeah, in the comic book.
Right.
And again, that happened early on as well. We knew there was going to be a robot in the movie named Baymax, but we had a strong desire to do something unique that we've never seen before, and that's hard. There's a lot of robots out there, and so we did a research trip to Carnegie Mellon, MIT, Harvard. And not only that, but we wanted the character to be very appealing and huggable. So we're looking for a unique robot and a huggable robot. And it was at Carnegie Mellon that I came across a researcher who was doing research in soft robotics, which is this bleeding edge technology where they will be making, healthcare robots of the future with this inflatable technology. And the minute I saw it, I thought that is perfect for our character Baymax, and we found our huggable robot.
One thing that's great about John Lasseter is if you say, okay, we're going to embark to make a movie that features a robot prominently, he'll say, okay, put up every iconic robot that's ever existed, and then give me something new. Give me something I've never seen before. And that's great because it forces you to not just go with your first impulse.
Yeah.
It forces you to do the research and be inspired and create something new.
Now, the look of Fred when he becomes a superhero in the film, was that a nod to the look of the original Baymax in the comics?
Actually,
there's a
see
similarity
the shape-shifting.
Yeah, and the kind of green dragon-ish.
Actually, what's interesting is I didn't even think about that. We weren't necessarily thinking about that. Fred was a little problematic, because I put a stake in the ground early on and said, okay, nobody's going to be superpowered. This is going to be super technology, and that's going to be the superpower in the movie is going to be everybody's intelligence. And what Fred in the comic books, actually, it was almost a mutant. He was able to, emit sort of a kaiju, and so I was on the hunt for how am I going to ground that in reality? And I came across some videos of some guys who get dressed up in kaiju suits and have wrestling matches in battle. And generally, it's centered around Comic-Cons and that kind of thing.
Right.
So it felt like, the kind of guy that would get dressed up in a kaiju suit in battle became sort of like, okay, that's our Fred. And then we just kind of tricked it out with like power, making it jump high and breathe fire. But it came from sort of a celebration of those guys that get dressed up in kaiju suits and wrestle.
And real quick, San Fransokyo, the choice to make this fictional city based on the two cities and put the story there.
Yeah, it just came early on when we talked to Marvel. They really encouraged us to create our own world, to create something unique to us, and so that's what led to it.
Yeah, and one thing that's nice about it is it is this fusion between Eastern and Western aesthetic. And we have a movie that is an amalgam of so many disparate elements. You've got the Marvel and the Disney, and you've got the sort of emotional story about loss and broad comedy, and you have genre-wise, you have a boy and his robot and a superhero origin story. All these things have to come together and form one thing, and we needed to create the personality that could house all these things. And so I like that the city is almost a visual indicator of the kind of movie that you're going to experience.
Well, it's excellent. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much, guys. Great
Thank
talking
you,
to you.
man.
Yeah.